We're back. It's the FA Cup today, and it's time for another happy hour.
Hello and welcome back to United Happy Hour. I feel a little bit out of sync for this show because I'm on the right-hand side. Paulie knows what I'm talking about. It's just a funny thing that I am. I'm usually on the left. I'm on the right. I hope that's not...
It's like Marcus Rashford. We're moving you to the right and you're going to be exactly. More prolific.
Actually, I've got a left foot, so I'd probably be more effective on the right, to be honest. When I say I've got a left foot, I don't use it much, but if I am left-sided, I am left-sided. So, I probably would be good coming in off the right. Anyway, Paulie, enough of that. Obviously, first United Happy Hour since the absolute carnage of the weekend. Well, not carnage in terms of the game and how it ended, but also all the fallout and reaction after it. First of all, Paulie, your reactions to the weekend and to the game.
Yeah, to the weekend, boy, that was rough. And I'm not talking about just the game. The game was rough, but the whole rest of the weekend was rough. And this is why we come on Tuesday, Joe, because unless we play Monday, which in this season, it gives us a lot of time to sit back and process. We can watch the game back. It's why I specifically avoid any post-game show or anything, really, from not just the internet, but, the pundits. I don't really watch the post-match show and anything because, they're a different story, but the fans, it's so reactionary and it's so emotional and everybody lets their emotions get the better of them. And then they just want to lash out. And I think it's always important, first of all, sleep on it. Second of all, if you actually want to have an opinion and be taken seriously, you got to rewatch the game, and you'll see things that you didn't see before. You'll see things that you didn't notice that you liked. You'll see some other things that you didn't notice that you didn't like, and it gives you a much better picture of this match. So I'm glad that we've taken a few days to come down on this, but still the reaction was so over the top. Not to say that certain players didn't screw up colossally, because they did. Your 80 million pound defender and captain made one bad play and one really bad play. Your goalkeeper, who is the highest paid goalkeeper in the world, and we'll get into that as well, was really bad again.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean, though, that they were the only ones at fault, because every single goal was not the third one, but the first two were basically team-wide efforts and team-wide breakdowns. And, there's a reason they call it defending from, there's a reason they said defense comes from the front. And you have a goalkeeper. There's a reason you have defenders in front of your goalkeeper. It's not just, the goalkeeper will keep the ball out of the net. No, you have defenders in front of them. And then you have defensive midfielders in front of them. There's a reason for that. Your defenders are supposed to clean up the mess that are started by, if a mess comes from someone else, and your goalkeeper is the last line of defense. And on each one of these, they failed to do that, but the mess started significantly higher up the pitch. And it was frustrating because they threw this one away.
Yeah, on the overreaction of fans, Paul, I just want to put this comment up here. NZZZ said, "Man, I'm still annoyed a lot with the Everton match. Couldn't sleep, logged off social media, had to watch something completely trivial to let off steam, and waited a whole 24 hours for watching the highlights." Now, to be fair, that's usually what I do when we have a bad result. I don't feel the need, Paul, and I've said this before on this show, I've said it on many shows, I don't feel the need to start going on social media and abusing people. And when we talk about, I'm not even talking about racism, Paulie. I'm just talking about general abuse that players get, criticism that they get. And it's never a good time to react to the game, like you say, straight after the game. You need to take stock. Things never look good. That goal, the nature of it didn't look good at the time. But there's always a reason for certain things. And I think it's like you say, it's important that we take at least 24 hours to get it out of our system.
Yeah, and it's just, there was so much agenda flying around, and it's annoying because I try to limit the amount of United people I follow on Twitter because I don't want my timeline flooded with it for exactly situations like Saturday. If I wanted to find out what was going on in anything else in the world or entertainment or anything, it's so-and-so liked this post, someone retweeted this, and I'm just flooded with some good, but some, the agendas are out, and everybody's going after Maguire. And we'll get to the question later, but just the beginning of this comment from Cobb, Maguire's the captain, so he's bound to get the blame. You're right. But that doesn't, stop blaming the price tag on Maguire. People expect so much of him because of the price tag that has nothing to do with him. Yeah. And they all think that Maguire's bad. Everybody suddenly just ignores the great run of form that Maguire had been on coming up to this game. Everybody suddenly ignores that we wouldn't have beaten Everton in October or November, whenever it was, if it wasn't for Maguire. He had a great game that game. He was a beast in the box. It's all just back to, I've always hated this guy and screw him. And it's, this is why you need a pacey center back next to him because, Lindelof doesn't cover his lack of pace. And look at the first goal. Yeah, well, the first goal happened because Wan-Bissaka pushed up in the press and Lindelof then had to follow Richarlison all the way to the touchline. So Maguire shifted over. And United's press wasn't good. Everton broke it like that. And the midfield was non-existent. And suddenly you have Dominic Calvert-Lewin running at Maguire. But if Eric Bailly is on the pitch, he'd still be where Lindelof was. And you'd still be in the exact same situation. So that doesn't make sense to all of a sudden start blaming this and blaming that. And you can't blame Go ahead.
Sorry, Paulie. Can I just respond to the second part of this where he says, but why is it on every corner, every set piece, every defensive action against every good striker, it's Maguire that has to get to him or else? And I think that's a really good point, Paulie, because I think the problem is everybody got this stigma when we bought Maguire for that amount of money. And he has become club captain. I think we knew he was going to become club captain. But this whole thing about he's the leader for the next 10 years and he has to lead by example and he needs to be the man who, not only runs the back line, but runs the whole team. And I think that was something that was made by the fans, not necessarily by Manchester United, because you can see them signing a commanding centre-back in the summer, Paulie, who could no doubt, if it was a certain person who came in, there's been names linked that you would say were actually stronger leaders than Harry Maguire. So you'd make an argument for those guys taking that responsibility. And as NZZ says here, you attack as a team and you defend as a team. And I agree with that completely. And especially from set pieces, Paulie, it's never one man's job at a set piece to deal with it. You look at how many people come back. Why bring all those people back for a set piece if they haven't got a responsibility to deal with the ball, Paulie?
Yeah, and you brought up two really good points here that I'm gonna touch on. Lokish with a good answer also. Maguire's become a meme, and some judge him as a footballer than that, and that's 100% true. Although I will say this, he became a meme in the World Cup, but he was being judged. His judgment started before that, when Gareth Southgate was even considering him. People were like, "Oh, it's just the English media, inflating him, and it's the English bias," and has stuck with him every step of the way. And now and like you said, everyone expects the world of him because of that £80 million price tag, which is unfair because there's no one is perfect. When you go looking for a car, there's always things you ever watch the show House Hunters?
No, I might have, but I can't remember.
It's a show where they take a couple and they go, they try to find a house and they go,
we have
what do you
something
want?
similar in the UK.
And they go, we want a washer dryer in the house. We want 3 bedrooms. We want this.
Want a swimming
we
pool.
want this. And we want it to cost, an absurdly, something that's just absurd. You're never going to find that. And they always show them houses that have 4 out of 5 or 3 out of 5 of the things you want. And it's about the priority because there is no such thing as having 5 out of 5 within the budget that you want. So now it becomes you're the manager, you're Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, and you go, all right, like I want 6 things out of my center back. Which are the 6? Now I have to place the most important what's the most important thing? So is it leadership? Is it speed and pace? Is it ability in the air? Is it ability with the ball? And depending on what you how you order that. So to some fans, it might be the ability it might be pace and that commanding presence. So when you whip across and he's going to get there. But to Solskjaer, it might be leadership and his ability on the ball. I mean, remember, Pep spent $50 million on John Stones, not because he was a good defender, but because he could play with the ball at his feet.
Yeah.
That was what was most important to Pep. So once Solskjaer goes, this is the order of importance, and then it's about who checks these boxes. So it's Harry Maguire's the one that checks the boxes for him. And then Leicester just go, he checked our boxes too. We don't want to sell him. So you're going to have to give us a lot of money. And then that's how he ends up with all this money that suddenly, just because you paid more than, if he could have been 60 million and instead you paid 80 million, that doesn't mean he all of a sudden developed pace. Like, no, he always didn't have that. And that's, if he had pace, he would be lacking something else.
This is interesting. Sorry, carry on, Pauly. I see you want to say something else. Carry on. I don't want to break your flow.
So
I already have.
The latter part of Cobb's question of why is it on every corner, every defensive action against every good striker? It's Maguire, and his follow-up comment. What is his partner doing? Why is it Maguire the one-man army? I'll tell you why. Because last year, third game of the season, Victor Lindelof got beat in the air against Crystal Palace and we conceded a goal. And a week later, we went to St. Mary's and Victor Lindelof got beat in the air and we conceded off a corner and drop points.
Yeah.
Victor Lindelof got a reputation there that, he's weak in the air and we can't trust him and he's a liability. Victor Lindelof did not get beaten in the air again all season long for a goal. You know why? Because we made it Harry Maguire's responsibility. It's Harry Maguire's responsibility to cover when that's Lindelof's weakness. The same way that Maguire has some weaknesses that Shaw covers or Lindelof covers. So you constantly see Maguire lines up against somebody on a free kick, but it's his job to then, once that ball goes in the air, it's his job to be the one to get. And that's why so many times when we concede, you see him grabbing Wan-Bissaka and you're like, why is he marking Wan-Bissaka? And it's like, he's not marking Wan-Bissaka. He's grabbing him to throw him out of the way and say, get out of my way. Yeah. I'm going to get this. And and a lot of times it works. And nobody grabs the screenshot when it works. And when it doesn't work, that's when you grab the screenshot. And it's hard. It's asking him a lot to do, but look at where Maguire lines up on this free kick. He's all the way at the back post, next to the goalkeeper, basically. Dominic Calvert-Lewin is in the middle of the pitch here next to Lindelof and Bailly. But Maguire's
Tuanzebe.
Yes, Tuanzebe. But Maguire's still the one that gets closest to him when he scores that goal. And Maguire's the one. Yes, Maguire played everyone on side. He mistimed his run, and that is 100% his fault. But everything after that, it's why is he in that situation? Because he knows he's got to be the one that gets there.
The other thing that backs that argument up that you're making as well, Paulie, for me, is when you look at Eric Bailly in the games that he's played for United this season, he's done very well in games where he's partnered Maguire against physical centre-forwards, Paulie, because I think what you find with Bailly is actually, out of the other centre-backs we do have at the club, aerially, he's quite dominant. So he takes some of that burden away from Maguire. Unlike Lindelof and Wan-Bissaka, at least Eric Bailly can head the ball, it seems, from set pieces. He can head the ball from different actions. So I think moving forward, if Bailly can get fit again and get a consistent run, I think that's why you'll see United rotate centre-backs, because I think they've got to learn their lesson now, because I think last season, in the game in the league, Maguire was bullied by Calvert-Lewin for their first Everton goal, wasn't it? And I think, and then it dropped to Bernard, I think, who scored the goal, and they took the lead at Goodison, didn't they? And I think there's been a couple of examples now where Lindelof struggled.
That was at Old Trafford, and Calvert-Lewin, he hit De Gea, who wasn't strong enough. He didn't make a fuss about it. It should have been a foul, and then the ball ended up bouncing off Lindelof and going in, which everybody killed Lindelof for.
But what I'm saying is, Paul, there's enough evidence there now, I think, to suggest that when United play against the stronger centre-forward, that's why you play Bailly. And I think that's why Bailly came in against Tottenham at the start of the season in the 6-1 game, because if you remember, Lindelof had a couple of physical battles that he lost that cost us goals in the opening 2 games of the season against Brighton and Palace. So
I don't know if that's true.
Okay.
I think he came in because Lindelof had been dealing with that back injury.
Yeah, okay.
And because Lindelof put Harry Maguire in his pocket twice last season. And that's what teams do is they when they have that big physical striker, Everton are different because they have Richarlison and Calvert-Lewin. But when teams have that big physical striker, they love to put him right on Lindelof. And Lindelof is actually really good at dealing with it, especially because if the ball comes into his feet, Lindelof is the far better defender. And he just won't let you do anything. And then once they get into the box, then there's a switch made. And if a cross comes in, it's Maguire who picks him up. Because again, there is no perfect system. You know, I have spent, God only knows how, way too much time over the last 2 days, probably reading all about Pep Guardiola, rereading about Pep Guardiola. I've always read about Guardiola because you want to be well-rounded, but rereading about Guardiola and his tactics this season at City and how they're different from the past and how he's adapted, because everybody wants to say, hey, let's get a center back and we're going to and that'll fix our defense. Look at Ruben Diaz. Nobody wants to actually pay attention to, well, wait, it's Ruben Diaz who has been sensational this year, but what have City done as a system, as a unit to make their defense better? Because they have done a lot. Because why were they vulnerable last season? They were vulnerable to quick transitions and direct, and that's long been the Achilles heel of Guardiola. His heavy possession style is vulnerable to direct counters, and he's always trying to figure out how to stop counterattacks without changing too much of his thing. Because no matter what, every system has its flaw. And so that's what United have to do is, all right, here's Lindelof's flaw. So how do we cover for that? Here's Wan-Bissaka's flaw. How do we cover? We've seen this all year. Wan-Bissaka, great one-on-one defensively, awful in build-up play, good in the final third. So we don't ask him to do build-up play. We don't ask him to carry the ball up the pitch. We say, once we have possession, you just get up the pitch. And we give him the ball in the final third. We don't ask him to help us get the ball in the final third. That's Luke Shaw's job and Pogba's job and Maguire's job. That's another reason for Maguire. When you're playing with McTominay and Fred, Maguire takes on more of the ball progression responsibilities. So for everything is going to have its positives. McTominay and Fred give you certain things that Pogba or Matic don't, but they also have negatives. McTominay and Fred don't do things that Pogba and Matic do, and Pogba and Matic don't do that, So everybody loves to harp the blame on Maguire, but we're also asking him to do so many different things. And like you said, when it comes to Bailly, the numbers especially if you take that Tottenham game out, because there's a million reasons why
that game's an anomaly. Yeah.
There's a million reasons why that's an outlier. The numbers when you play Shaw, Maguire, Wan-Bissaka, and Lindelof compared to Shaw, Maguire, Wan-Bissaka, and Bailly, very, very similar. So, when you make any other changes to the formation or the fullbacks, then it becomes a mess. But those guys, very similar. So it becomes, this horses for courses thing where you want Bailly in there, and he's going to be great against the Burnleys and the likes. And when we are going to dominate possession like that, you could play higher up with Bailly because he has that recovery pace. The issue with Bailly has always been can't stay fit.
No, exactly. And a lot of people, to be fair, Paulie, in the comments have echoed this. I'm going to ask you this question that's come in, Paulie, and then I've got a quick point just to finish on Maguire. This point, the question that's coming here from Yash Dai. So how do we deal with set pieces moving forward? What do you think needs to happen here, Paulie? I mean, United have conceded so many goals from set pieces, like this year especially. What's the way forward, Paulie? Do they need to hire? Is it getting to a point now where you think they need a set piece coach, or do you think more people need to do their jobs better? What's going on here? What's the overriding issue? If I was to ask you, I appreciate you're not a professional coach, but I know you have opinions on this thing.
I mean, yeah. My opinion was 2 years ago, they needed to hire a set piece coach, whether they were good at them or not. Set pieces are such an undervalued area, and there's so much there for the table. Let's bring up Midtjylland. You know who Midtjylland is. We all know who everybody watching the show and listening to the show knows who
Midtjylland was your pick to win the Champions League, weren't they?
Not win the Champions League. Not win the Champions League. I said they might surprise people and get out of the group, and of all the things that I've said, that's been the wrongest.
Don't worry, I got a lot of predictions wrong on that as well.
Joe also said Real Madrid wouldn't get out of the group, and
exactly, yeah. And they're probably going to win it now, mate. So carry on.
And for the entire time, he was being like, oh, look at this. And I was like, bro, there's still 20 minutes to play. Give him, there's still 3 games and 20 minutes to play. Give him time.
Yeah, never gloat early.
Why do we know who Midtjylland is? Because Marcus Rashford scored 2 goals against them on their debut. Nobody else knows, if Marcus Rashford didn't score 2 goals on his debut there and United just came back and overturned that 2-1 deficit and go to the next round, would anybody know who Midtjylland is? No, they're an irrelevant Europa League club. They're like the Burnley, but that's the thing is they were like the Burnley of Denmark. I believe they're from Denmark. And suddenly they all of a sudden got to the Europa League, which was an accomplishment in and of itself. The fact that they drew United was huge for them. But unlike Burnley, who got to the Europa League and bounced out as fast as possible and have never been heard from again, Midtjylland got back there and got back there again and became a Europa League mainstay. And then this year went to the Champions League and they got trounced because they're not ready for that yet. But how do they do that? They did that by really full-on embracing analytics and really, really valuing set pieces. The CEO of StatsBomb, Ted Knutson, he used to work for Midtjylland before he started StatsBomb. And in his seminars now, where he does a whole seminar on set pieces, and he has explained it. He has explained some of their tricks to the trade. He doesn't give away all the secrets, but he has explained some of it, and he explained how they do it. They got to this point by scoring 3 goals every 4 games on set pieces. That is ridiculous. That's 3 goals, and I'm not a coach. I can't tell you how United can solve their set piece issue. Cavani defends that near post a lot better than some people do.
Yeah.
I think Martial defends it pretty well.
This is where we disagree. I don't hate Martial.
We're all remembering the goal against PSG.
No, I'm just remembering a number of times that he seems just. I don't think he's the most. It's a position, Paulie, where you have to concentrate because a lot of people think it's just a zonal position, but the amount of times you get people that want to run round you and make that front post run, you have to be switched on a lot. And I don't think in general Martial's key strength is being switched on. He doesn't seem the most dialed in person on a game day. Maybe that's just the perception that I've got, but there we go. I understand why he's there because that's no striker's job from a set piece, to be fair.
That's fair. The thing we were vulnerable on set pieces last year as well for the first half of the season. And we fixed it in the second half. So there's no reason to suggest we can't do that again. I don't know why we are all of a sudden more vulnerable now. Perhaps it's because it's because of players on the pitch. Matic came into the team and suddenly we stopped giving up set pieces. Matic is really good in the air.
Yeah.
If Ollie Solskjaer made a mistake on Saturday, it was bringing on Tonzebi instead of Matic. I mean, Matic does so many, he does what you would need him to do there. Pogba's really good at set pieces. Second half of the season last year, Pogba came back into the team. McTominay doesn't win as many of these aerial duels as you think he would, and he's a big guy. He started winning them on the other end, but defensively and a lot of times when he does, it's just a header out and somebody's there to put it right back in.
Just on Axel quickly, he's been really unfortunate, hasn't he, Paulie? Because I just feel like he's been wrong player at wrong time. He was the one who inadvertently got deflected the ball for the Leicester City equaliser, having come on late in that game just to shut it up as well, hadn't he? It seems like when he's being brought on to shut games down, he just seems to be the person
he started that game. Didn't he start that game?
Everybody says he can't do it, and that's ridiculous. He's just unfortunate, I think.
I think it's a mix between unfortunate and he just might not mentally he's immature.
Be switched on to come on as a sub
it's
at
not
that time in the game.
He's still immature. And you see that there's mistakes that he makes that are mature. And, yes, it was diving into that tackle that was just so unnecessary. Because if you show him down the line, he's going to run to nowhere. And your best game this season against PSG was a game where you famously didn't go to ground at all. And now you go to ground and, he comes on. Demba Ba gave him riots in the Champions League and he got a yellow card and he comes on against Istanbul the second time and he wants to get some revenge, but he comes in with a very rash challenge. And it was like, people do that all the time, but like you were obvious about it. And an experienced player would get that challenge in and get that little in there on Demba Ba. But for Tuanzebe, it's another yellow and he's suspended him. So there's just some immaturity about him that makes it difficult. So, but like to go back to what I was just saying, if you look at the players on the pitch, like your midfielders, McTominay, Fred's tiny and doesn't win anything in the air. So right there, if you're worried about, your strikers being able to defend, and now your midfielder is Fred, like that's, Fred does a lot, but like everybody, there's nobody perfect, or there's a few perfect players out there, but like 4 or 5 of them, and none of them play for United. So, that already takes away from somebody being able to defend a set piece better. So this is an area United absolutely need a set piece specialist. And here's the thing, like we were just talking about Midtjylland and how good they are. Everton are second. They have the second most goals from set pieces in the league this year. That doesn't happen by accident. That doesn't happen just because they have Richarlison and Calvert-Lewin. They just pump balls to them. There's a reason. And we are going to go to the tactics board for this.
I love it when you take us to the tactics board, Paulie. Go for it.
So this free kick, Maguire, let's talk about this. Maguire screws up. He plays everybody onside. And we can discuss later why that's the case. But don't forget this. Everton played this extremely well and executed extremely well. You could talk about how United set up. You get a free kick in this area. Luca Digne is standing over the ball. He's left-footed. There's no right-footed player near him. So Lucas Digne is going to deliver this ball. You basically know where it's going to go. Because if he goes to the near post, he's probably going to be too straight to get a good shot on. Or he's going to put it too far to the angle will be bad and it'll be an easy save for De Gea. So the ball's going to be whipped in towards the middle or the back post, towards that spot. That red box up there is the most dangerous area of the pitch. That's where you need to defend. And Everton line up by throwing Calvert-Lewin and Richarlison, Godfrey, and they bring up their goalkeeper. To line up at the back post. And it's like, these are our big guys. We're throwing them there. We're going to hoof the ball at them. So United line up they take their best aerial defenders. Who wins the most aerial duels? And that would be Maguire is number 1. So he lines up right on the end here on the back post.
Yeah.
Lindelof is number 2. Aerial percentage, you might say he's weak in the air. Aerial percentage, he's number 2. So he lines up in front of Maguire. Then Tuanzebe, he lines up in front of him. Then you get to Cavani, who his aerial numbers are down, but that's because he goes against the other team's best guy all the time. So he's not going to win as much. And then you go to Rashford, and then Shaw and Wan-Bissaka, who are not as big. But by the time you get over there, that's the near post. It's not as dangerous of an area. That's why they're over, you're lining up in your biggest guys are defending the most dangerous area, and you're progressively moving to the less dangerous area. Here's what Everton did. They very slyly take Michael Keane, who is their best aerial guy, and they put him on the near post. And he's now smack in between Wan-Bissaka and Shaw, with Rashford being the guy to help him. So if you put this ball into Michael Keane, You fancy if Michael Keane, who's your best aerial guy, just goes to that back post and you're trying to hoof it onto somebody's head, he's probably going to get nullified out by Maguire or something, because that delivery has to be perfect. There's a lot of bodies. If you put him on Luke Shaw and Wan-Bissaka and you put the ball there, you fancy his chances of winning that header. So Everton are playing this for the second ball. United are out there defending for hoof it into the box and defend it. Everton are playing for a second ball. And it's possible, you mentioned to me before the show that Jamie Carragher talked about this last night. It's possible that Maguire recognized this and saw this at the last second, and he's trying to run back to the middle now to try to take care of that so he could be there for the second ball. That was my initial thought. I wanted to give him the benefit of the doubt. But then I rewatched the goal, and once that first ball comes in and Maguire's already played everybody on side, he's still just standing there until it's too late.
Yeah, he's not making that move, is he?
He's not making that move. So I understand what Carragher's saying, and I wanted to give him the benefit of the doubt, but he doesn't really do anything. So it's a colossal mistake from Maguire. But at the same time, this is why Everton got that chance, because they played, they set up, while United are setting up to defend the most dangerous area on the pitch, Everton were setting up, let's get a second ball in and create chaos here.
Yeah. Paulie, look, I just want to, there's a question coming here. Do you guys like zonal marking? Now, I just want to make a quick comment on this. I remember back, I might be wrong. In fact, I probably am wrong, but I think the first time it come to the forefront in the Premier League zonal marking was Rafa Benitez, I think, actually, at Liverpool. I think he might have been someone who went full zonal, if you know what I mean. And I remember at the time, there was a big debate about, do you go zonal, do you go man marking? And it's become a debate even to this day, whereas now I think teams use a hybrid system, don't they, Paul? So you have, say, if you've got 10 people back, 5 of them are zonal, 5 of them are hybrid, or some sort of ratio like that sort of thing. And I think that's the way most teams are going now. I don't think that each system has got its flaws, Paulie, but it comes down to, I always think, in whatever system you use, people have got to execute their jobs properly and do their jobs right, because you can use whatever system you want, Paulie. If the players aren't going to do the job and execute it, it doesn't matter what you use, does it really?
Yeah, every system's going to have its hole. And if we come up with some new, this is the NFL in a nutshell. This is what they pay offensive and defensive coordinators millions of dollars a year for. Figure out the next best thing. And there's always that famous defense, the 85 Bears, the Tampa Bay the Tampa 2. There's always some new defense that comes around that is just amazing. And then the following winter, summer, spring, the offensive coordinators sit down and they go, all right, so here's how they play defense. Where are they vulnerable? How do we attack that defense? And they figure out how to attack it. And then nobody plays it anymore because everybody knows how to beat it. And then there's an offensive guy who comes up with some new offense that no one knows how to stop. And the defensive guys sit down and they go, how do we stop this? And people figure out how to stop it. So you could do zonal marking. You could do man marking. Everybody's got a different way of going about. There's always going to be a flaw, and you just have to figure out where the vulnerability is and how to attack it. And a great example of this was Belgium-Brazil in the World Cup in 2018. Brazil's coaching staff was at Manchester City for a month in April, I believe, working with Pep and everything to get ideas for the World Cup, etc. And they fit sharing knowledge,
idea sharing, sharing ideas, yeah.
So basically, they essentially take Pep's how do we defend corners. They take the same principles. Well, guess who plays for Manchester City? Vincent Kompany. He sits there and he knows exactly where this defense is good, and he knows exactly where that defense is vulnerable. He knows City are vulnerable on the near post, on corners. Yeah. And therefore, Brazil will probably be vulnerable on the near post. And what happened in that game? Vincent Kompany scores a goal off a corner from the near post. Near post, he flicks it on because he knew that's where the vulnerability was. So every system will have its vulnerability. Now, I want to bring up this comment from NZ. That consistently, we're seeing a lack of in-game management, especially in the last minutes. And I wrote about this this week. I broke down the mistakes that were made team-wide on each goal, as well as this, the immaturity. This is not a new problem. Everybody's bringing it up because it's been dicey in the last few games. You could go read this on the Busby Babe, by the way, busbybabe.com. It's right on the top page. Because it got dicey against Burnley. It got dicey against Fulham. We threw the game away. We threw a Leicester game. All right, guess what? We threw away Crystal Palace. We threw points away against Crystal Palace last year. We threw points away against Sheffield United last year. We were begging Manchester City to come and take a point at the Etihad. We conceded the goal with 5 minutes to go, and we were under siege the last 5 minutes.
Yeah.
We were a VAR review away from giving up our point at Goodison Park. If you don't remember, Igalo missed that chance on one end, and Sigurdsson went right back down the other end and scored. And
he was offside,
and ruled it offside.
He was laid in an offside position on the
This is not new. But you then remember about the entire mentality and everything of the team. Well, last year also, if we, we're a young, immature team, and there's lots of hills to climb. And last year, we only won 2 games when we conceded the first goal. We have very much turned that around this year. So mentality, much better in that regard. We've developed that never say die mentality that we can always come back and score another one, which we saw on Saturday. We conceded 2 bad goals, but we got our heads on straight and we went out and got a third. Okay, so now the next step is the maturity to see out games. We struggled with it last year. We're struggling with it this year. You were never going to fix everything overnight. You were never going to fix all the problems at once. You take them one at a time. One problem we've improved greatly on. Now it's time to improve on the other one.
Paulie, just one final question that I have for you, and just a point I want to make before we move on to the other aspect of that goal and what United might do moving forward regarding that around the goalkeeper. On Maguire, we bought Maguire from Leicester City. Now, I'm pretty sure at the time he wasn't Leicester City's club captain. I think that might have still been Wes Morgan. And I'm pretty sure he wasn't England captain when we bought him either. Do you think it's fair that obviously he's come in and we expect him to lead a massive club like Manchester United? I understand Man United paid 80 million for him and they want him to lead, they want to build the defence around him for the next 10 years. But considering that that's never really been, he's never done that. I think he might have been club captain at Hull City or Sheffield United or something like that. But this is a completely different animal, isn't it? I know he's captain in England a bit more now, but still don't think he's official England captain. I think that's Jordan Henderson, isn't it? So,
yeah. Oh, no, it's Kane.
Harry Kane, sorry, of course, Harry Kane. And then I think actually Jordan Henderson may be vice captain, but Jordan Henderson hasn't played much for England recently, so it tends to go to Harry Maguire. So, is it fair that we expect him to become this sort of leader at the club already, even though it's not really something he's done in the past at a big club?
It's not unfair. Remember, I mean, this has been coming up now because we're, the last week there's been a lot of Bruno stories because it's been a year since his debut. And we heard about the stories from Solskjaer and how he said, I went to Sporting and I saw the leadership and I saw how he was this leader and everything. Yeah. So you don't need, and we see it at United, even though he's not the captain. You don't need to be the captain to know that you have this leadership. And, for all we know, if Wes Morgan left, Maguire would have been captain for Leicester. But when Maguire arrived there, Morgan was already there. What you do know is Sir Alex Ferguson looked at this guy and said, you need to sign him.
Yeah.
Leicester, I think it was Claude Poole, did sign him. Mike Phelan signed him at Hull. Gareth Southgate looked at this guy, despite everybody being like, this is just English bias, and what the hell is this big, goofy-looking guy doing in our defense? And Gareth Southgate went, no, he's probably one of the most important players we're going to take to Russia. Yeah. Jose Mourinho said, you need to sign him. Pep Guardiola wanted to sign him.
Yeah.
Every manager, look, nobody's perfect and people swing and miss, but if every manager really wants this guy, like there's something about him. And
yeah, you have to think there's something in there, don't you?
As fans, we are only privileged enough to see what goes on for 90 minutes on our TV screen, so we can't even see the full thing. We can't hear anything that they're saying. And to make judgments based on that is extremely naive. I always go back to, I was talking with a senior member of that United dressing room last year. Yeah. And he said by September, everyone on this team knew it was Maguire's team.
Yeah.
So we don't see what happens behind the scenes. We only get to see what happens for 90 minutes, and we only get a fraction of that view. Like Cobb had mentioned in his comment earlier this season, when Maguire won that handball against Brighton, no one mentioned the fact that he was up in arms at the ref to make sure that the ref went and reviewed it. It was only why, the story was a week later. Why is Maguire not yelling at the ref because of the Martial red card? We don't see everything that goes on. He started organizing trips, guys' nights out for the team that were mandatory, that were about team bonding, that were players were fine if they didn't show up. Like, he took control of this dressing room. We don't see that. So I don't think it's Ollie didn't give him the armband because he said, we paid $80 million for you, so learn how to be a leader. He gave him the armband because he had essentially taken it already.
Yeah. Paulie, look, I'm conscious of time a little bit tonight because I am aware that you was caught out a little bit by the fact that the game kicks off at 1:30 your time.
Can we these Tuesday, Wednesday, can we get a set time here?
Yeah, I know.
Every week it's different.
But look, I just want to finish off by looking at, like we always do, Paulie, what's on social media. I think we've broken the record for the latest that we've come to this, Paulie. We're normally in there about 20 minutes, half an hour. I think half an hour might be the longest. We've gone 40 minutes. But let's just do this because it sort of ties in with what we wanted to talk about. So, yeah, what's on social media, Paulie? And I think it's probably dominated social media since, obviously, what happened late on the game on Saturday, should I say, sorry. And it's around the goalkeeping situation, Paulie. There's a lot of rumours that, Henderson will come into the team tonight. I don't think De Gea's, I think you told me earlier, De Gea hasn't been included in he hadn't travelled with the squad, has he? So he's obviously, looks like he's been given the night off today. But not just tonight, Paulie. Obviously, moving forward, do you think that Henderson may get a run now? And also, let's talk about De Gea and his role in that late equaliser as well, because we can criticise Maguire as much as we want. De Gea didn't cover himself in glory either, did he?
We're acting like it's surprising that Dean Henderson's going to be the keeper tonight. It's the FA Cup. Like, he started every cup game. So that was a simple solution.
Yeah.
Do I think Dean Henderson is going to get a run the team? I don't think so. And I don't think he really So the thing is, we started the season coming off De Gea finishing the season last year really poorly. And we all said David De Gea is like one colossal mistake away from, Dean Henderson. And Henderson's going to get his chances in the cups. And if De Gea is playing shaky and Henderson's killing it in the cups, then we're going to start to get some questions. And people, Henderson made one save against Luton Town. It was a great save, but he made one save against Luton Town, kept a clean sheet as he should. It's Luton Town. And already people were talking, the guy should be number one. And then he kept a clean sheet against Brighton's reserves. But then he went to Istanbul and he didn't cover himself in glory. Not to say that it was his fault, but didn't cover himself in glory. He has gotten chances in the league. It's the first time De Gea has missed league games for 3 years, 4 years?
Yeah.
And what's happened?
He's not been without error in those games.
Exactly.
Sheffield United mostly is the one that sticks out for me, Paulie.
He made the biggest error of the season. And Dean Henderson has played 2.5 games in goal in the league for United this season, and they have conceded 2 goals from corners in those 2.5 games. So you can't even, the argument that, he'd command his box better doesn't really stand either, because I think United have conceded like 4, I think he's almost conceded like half of them. So,
Ollie, I'm glad you said that because I think exactly the same. The things that David De Gea is getting criticised for right now, I don't think Dean Henderson's much better. Even the Everton first goal where he sort of spills that cross, I could see Henderson parrying it like that as well. I don't think Henderson's handling is so wonderful that he catches that ball or anything like that. So that's the issue that I have. We started this season thinking we were so lucky to have two wonderful goalkeepers like that, but the problem is, I think we've got two goalkeepers, Paulie, that are flawed in the same areas, aren't they, it seems?
Yeah, that I spoke about that with somebody on Saturday, was the weaknesses of De Gea are basically the same weaknesses of Henderson. Where Dean shines is on situations like that third goal. He has made some saves this year where he has attacked people in the box and made himself big. And so I do think he would have saved that. But like you said, that first goal, he probably spills that too. And the thing is, and the League Cup against City, he did not cover himself in glory on either of those goals. His footwork, some would say, oh, he had no chance. His footwork was atrocious on those goals. And I was sitting next to somebody who watching those games who plays in goal and was just like, this is what a coach sees. The fan might see, oh, that's a great shot, well placed, keeper camera. The coach says the keeper might not have been able to do anything about it, but that footwork, if you have that footwork, there's going to be many times where you do have a chance at it and you're not going to get it. And that hasn't been great. And meanwhile, De Gea has actually picked up and played well this year. He's had ups and downs, which you don't want from De Gea. You don't want that. He's the highest paid goalkeeper in the world. But at the same time, that's a structure of how the sport works. And that's a structure how most sports work. In most sports, once you hit 26, 27, you get paid for what you did, not so much what you're going to do. De Gea was the best goalkeeper in the world by a country mile. In 2017-18, he was historically good, that he gets to sit there and go, I deserve to be the best goalkeeper in the world. And look, if somebody else would have signed him, he would have been the highest paid goalkeeper in the world. And United, if they would have went for a replacement that was around 27, they would have also overpaid him. They would have maybe not $375K a week, but they would have basically been paying him for what you did last year, the year before, and not so much what you're going to do in the next 3 years.
You know what it is, though? Oh, sorry, carry on, Paulie.
You want him to be better, but the thing is, now you're in this tough situation because you do need to figure out how to drop him in a way that it's like, hey, we're not afraid to go to this Henderson guy.
Yeah.
But at the same time, Dean Henderson hasn't been knocking on the door. Remember at the beginning of January or something, I believe, or maybe it was in December where those stories were coming out, like Henderson not happy with his role. First of all, Dean, you knew that this was the situation you were walking into. Like you knew David De Gea was here. You knew.
Well, there's been more quotes from Ollie this week saying that he's not the most patient of guys either, which is also hinting that he's pushing now to get games, isn't he?
Yeah, as he should. You shouldn't be patient. You should want to play. I think the papers that were saying like, oh, he's not happy, were exaggerating this like crazy, or the fans that think he had to have been promised the world and like to sign a new contract, and United are negging on that promise. There's no way they promised him much more than what he's getting. The cups are going to be yours. We'll give you a chance, some games in the league. But David's number one unless you do enough to usurp him. And he hasn't. And in December, those stories were coming out. And then he made that mistake against Sheffield United. And suddenly those stories dried up. And a couple weeks later, he concedes those 2 goals against City. And suddenly we haven't heard a peep about Dean Henderson until De Gea finally makes a mistake. So Dean Henderson hasn't exactly been knocking on the door being like, I need a run in the team.
Yeah. No, it's an interesting situation for me though, Paulie, because now if United, obviously he plays tonight, which he was always going to play anyway, the biggest indicator will be what he does against West Brom maybe next weekend and whether Dean plays that one. If he does decide to give Dean Henderson a run of games now, for me, it is crucial that Henderson does well, because if you're not, you're going to have a situation that I feared at the start of this season, that I predicted. By having two good goalkeepers at your club, you're going to get a situation where you're not going to know who's your best goalkeeper. And it's, for me, I've always said it, Paul, it's a position in a football club that you should be certain about. They can only play one, obviously, and I've always thought you should know your number one goalkeeper. You shouldn't want to be having to keep changing, a little bit like Everton are at the moment, I think, with Olsen and Pickford. You know, they're not, obviously Olsen didn't cover himself in any glory, but then when Ancelotti turned round to his bench now, he looks back and he's got Jordan Pickford, who he also knows has struggled this season. So if Henderson's going to get into the team now, it's really important he does well, because Ollie doesn't want that headache of not knowing which goalkeeper to pick. It's just a position you don't want to have to worry about, really, isn't it?
Yeah, you're 100% right. And I've always said there is a way to do this, but you have to Dean Henderson deserves to play some games in the league. Like, I think I came into the season saying De Gea should play 32, 33 games in the league. So somewhere in there, there's room for Henderson. You have to do it in a way that it's not De Gea got dropped. You can't make that the story. You have to make it, oh, we're giving Dean a shot. But De Gea's, because right now, if you drop De Gea, you lost him mentally.
I think that's why Ollie's done what he's done with Dean this season, Paulie, even bringing him in the league, because he's brought him into league games actually when off the back of David doing quite well, so nobody can start the agenda, he's dropped David De Gea and now he's rotating him. And he might just be breaking us in gently, Paulie, so that when Dave does start making mistakes again, we'll just think, he's rotating him, and it won't look like he dropped him. He's probably done a really clever job with the psychology there, Ollie, early in the season, to be fair.
Yes, and it was good that he didn't go to De Gea to face Liverpool in the FA Cup. He said, no, it's the FA Cup. I'm sticking with Dean. But if you drop De Gea now, you lost him, which means if like you said, if Henderson doesn't do well, you can't go back to De Gea, because mentally, who knows where he is, which is a problem. So I've always said what you have to do is you basically have to, especially in a situation like this, you could say Dean's going to play, but David's going to play the following game. Now you're in this weird situation, because I actually do think West Brom would be the right game to put Dean Henderson in. That's a good game for him. And you do need to give De Gea a kick up his arse. You do.
Yeah.
But now you're in a situation where you have FA Cup, so that's going to be Henderson. And then you have West Brom, and then you have Europa League, which is you're going to play Henderson in that match.
There is an opportunity here to give Henderson 3 games and just fly it under the radar a little bit, really, isn't there, Paul? If you know what I mean.
But then it becomes a story, because then we have seen every publication. Anybody who talks about Sergio Romero will always look at how many clean sheets he's got, and it's like, ignore the fact that it's against League One sides and Europa League sides. So if you get 3 straight games from Dean Henderson, that everybody will talk about 3 straight games. They're going to ignore the fact that 2 of them were in the Cups, which is what you would have gotten anyway, and then sandwiched in there is a league start, which he might have gotten anyway, because it's West Brom. That's a great game to play him. So what do you do? What do you do? Do you I don't even think you can play Henderson against West Brom and then De Gea in the Europa League. That would be a good way to sell De Gea, hey, watch it. You could be here. But then you're going to go back to him in the league, and then Henderson loses a game, and that shouldn't happen either.
I think Dave needs to worry, Paulie, if he'd have been asked to start tonight and then he's asked to start in the Europa League again, because he'll have started 2 out of 3 games, but that doesn't necessarily mean he's the number one goalkeeper, does it? So
right. If you would have done that, that would have been a kick up. That's the thing, is you have to figure out a way to give him a kick up his ass without. If this was a couple weeks ago, would have been a lot easier. Dean's going to come in and play, or no, because that was. You could have said Dean's going to come in to play against Burnley, but David's going to be in there against Liverpool. And
I'll tell you what, Paulie, it's just, I find with Dave, because we bought him so young, it's an interesting situation, because he's not at an age yet where you can think, we'll just phase him out. I mean, he's getting a bit older now. He's still young for a goalkeeper. He's still young. It's probably coming into his prime.
You just gave him a new contract. There's not,
yeah.
And everybody said, they should just sell him. They should just sell him. Yeah, no one's buying him. Who's paying him?
To be fair, Paul, it won't be the first time that United has given somebody a new contract, then the following season started the process of phasing them out, has it? So
right, but like, who's signing David De Gea? No,
I know that, and that's the other issue, isn't it? Now he's let's be honest, Paulie, we didn't want it to happen, so we don't want to talk in hindsight. But the year he was going to go to Real Madrid, that was the opportunity for United to cash in on De Gea if they were ever going to. After that move didn't happen, you just felt that he was never going to be quite the same goalkeeper again, and Madrid weren't going to go back again.
But he was even better. Even better. I also think he didn't want to leave. I will go to my grave thing. I think he was in on the fax machine thing.
Someone will probably write a book about that one day, Paul.
The man never once said he wanted to leave. His girlfriend never shut up about it. And, you can't disagree with your girlfriend like that. So, but, hey, what happened the second he walked back into Carrington? He signed a new contract.
United are doing these data analytics on prospective new players, Paulie. I think they need to start looking at prospective wives of these players as well that they want to sign, because it seems amazing how many times United seem to have trouble with the players' families and wives. I remember, obviously, all the way back to David Beckham in the issue that Ferguson had with Posh Spice, and then we've had issues with De Gea.
It happens in a lot of situations, but
De Gea, Di Maria,
you're just mentioning the guys who married to pop stars.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, but look, that's what I mean. As a manager in a football club, you do need to take care of people's families as well. It's a tangible factor in a player's decision and their future, their families, obviously, and their relationships. And De Gea was in love at the time, and his wife happened to live in Madrid, and it was a very tricky situation for him.
Yeah,
but it's got.
And look, to get back to ultimately, to pay $375K for a backup keeper would be ridiculous. But I wouldn't mind it. De Gea earned that money and deserves it, and he has been a servant. He's been here 10 years already. So I don't mind paying him that money. He very much earned it. He's the only thing that kept us relevant for 5 years.
Yeah.
So, but you need to figure out how to, if Dean Henderson is the better keeper, then Dean Henderson should be playing. The issue right now is that everybody thinks Dean Henderson is the better keeper, and Dean Henderson hasn't done much to show that. And
sorry, Paulie, I was just going to say, I just want to finish on the fact that I think the best argument that I've seen for Dean Henderson playing tonight on social media, so I haven't got the tweet on me, I wish I'd have taken it, was somebody saying that Dean Henderson should be United goalkeeper moving forward now, because 3 out of the 4 players at the back are English, and therefore communication will be a lot more effective. Now, we ain't dealing with De Gea in 2011-12 here. We're dealing with David De Gea, who speaks perfectly good English now, Paulie. Yes, you can question maybe his authority and the way he speaks, but his English is not an issue anymore. And I don't think because we've 3 of our back 4 on average is English, Paulie, that means that we should have an English goalkeeper in goal.
No, I don't. And team news should drop any minute now, which means we need to wrap up, because some of us need to get going to make sure that we can watch
place at the bar. Paulie just likes to he likes to get to the bar while the drinks are lined up. That's what it is, isn't it, mate?
Well, when I get there, that's when they line them up, because it's happy hour. It's happy hour, Joe.
Happy hour. Thank you to everyone again who joined us today. If you are watching us for the first time, do smash a like on the video. Do subscribe to Quest Thoughts, Paulie's channel. And like I have today, do subscribe to his website as well, where you will receive his articles that he writes directly to your inbox. He writes some fantastic things, some really good, thought-provoking articles. So get over there and do that too. And we'll see you. Are we back on Thursday, Paulie?
We should be.
Okay, we should be with you on Thursday. Hopefully, see you then, guys. For now, take care, and let's hope we get the win tonight.